41, my parents had a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
He lived 9 days. His name was Gerald Bentley,
Mm-hmm.
and he was what they called a blue baby, which was a blood disease back in those days that they didn't have any cure for.
Mm.
Yeah.
But now they do.
Now they do.
Is it still called that, a blue baby, now today?
Well,
I don't know.
if what is it called now is a blue baby, or they probably have a different name.
They have a different name for it now.
Say his name again.
Pardon?
Say his name again. Gerald
Bentley.
Gerald Bentley.
Yeah,
So
my
still the
dad's
same with
middle
Bentley.
name was Bentley.
Yeah, I like that as Bentley. Say anything too much at all. Okay. What's your last one?
I kind of want to go back to my childhood.
Yeah, go. Say more if you want.
I don't remember the year, but I was 5 probably. I remember well, and of course Joe was a baby. Mom took her mother was dying, and she lived in Pueblo, Colorado, at the time, and Mom took Joe and I, and the 3 of us caught a bus and went there. And it was such a different life from what I was used to.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bigger house. They had pigeons, just birds everywhere, and there was a train track not too far from the house. And my cousins and I would walk up to the train track, and there was a bridge, and we'd get under that and hear the train go by, and we'd pick up a scrap iron and collect it, and then get money to go to the movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I have this picture in my mind of that house and everything. And my grandmother was, of course, was bedridden, and she was ill. I remember seeing her, but I remember the refrigerator, and we didn't have one at home in Arkansas, but I remember the refrigerator, and it smelled like juice, it had a sweet smell. And the town where this was located had a civil defense. I don't know what they did, but it was highly could have been bombed.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, in Arkansas, you would have never heard of having a blackout.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while we were there, they had a blackout, and that was where every light in that city was turned off, and the whistles blew to make sure that no one could have. You couldn't even light a flashlight, a cigarette, or anything. Well, my little cousin and I, if I was 5, he was probably about that age. Well, I remember we got in the bed and covered up our heads because we were scared. It was an eerie feeling with the sirens blowing, just like if you were going to be bombed.
Right.
And that was a memory that
stands out for sure.
Very, yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that. How
Yes.
old were you?
Well, about 5, yeah.
Wow. Why were they having a blackout?
That was a practice.
For if there was something bad
Yeah,
like that?
because that was the defense industry that was there, that was highly needed.
Right.
It was keep the Japanese from bombing.
America?
They couldn't see what to bomb, so they'd have it.
So they'd practice those blackouts if they needed to do a blackout.
Yeah.
And we had
Very
snow
interesting.
out there
Mm-hmm.
while I was there, and I don't know how I got them. Probably Mom bought them, but I had the prettiest little white snow boots. I remember sitting on the step at Grandma's house and
Cute.
looking at my white but pretty blue boots.
I love that the things you remember as a kid, like jelly shoes or whatever it is that you love.
They were boots, they
Yeah.
they were
Like snow
ankle
boots.
and white and pretty.
Love it. Okay, let's see what the next thing is. What's something important you learned from your parents? Or something that sticks out about them that they taught you?
My dad was a workaholic. He had to be to raise 11 children and not starve to death. You know, we had a farm, and we raised our food and put them in fruit jars, and we had a building at the back of the house, and there were shelves all around the back and the sides, and the front of the door had a little window at the back, and every shelf was full of canned goods, and meat was hanging from the rafters, basically pork. And so I learned from my dad hard work, and from my mom I learned the spiritual. Makes cold chills. My mom was a godly woman, and that's the two things that stand out.
Yeah, you've talked with us a lot about how like impactful your mom was like on your spiritual life, and how great a prayer warrior she was and everything. So
and back in those days we didn't have a church to go to, so mom and I'd say 4 or 5 ladies, they'd have prayer meetings at different homes. And I would by then I was probably 10, 12, 13 maybe. I'd walk with my mom to prayer meeting to those houses, and it was good, and it was unique because they praised the Lord, they prayed, they sang, and sometimes they'd have a little preacher there, and I remember one time Mom and I were walking home, and it was like 2 miles, and it came not a thunderstorm, but it came a rainstorm, and we got under this pretty tree, and we got wet, but anyway, so I have good memories of doing that with her. So, and we were real close.
That's nice. You sounded great. Granddaddy, what about you? What were your parents taught you?
Pardon?
What have your parents taught you, or something you remember about them that stands out?
My dad taught me work, in a store. And when I was 14, he took me to the driver's license place to get me a restricted driver's license. And I made 100 on every test they gave me. And he gave me a real driver's license at 14 years old. So I could drive on Highway 65
at 14
into Little Rock with my dad to get furniture and stuff.
That's cool.
And I could drive by myself, out just like everyone else. And we were active in church and my grandfather Massey was a singer, and he sang solos at churches out in the country where they had revivals and things like that. And we made quite a few of those too.
Well, he taught.
Huh?
He taught singing.
Yeah, he taught singing
really?
too, like that. Yeah.
Cool.
It was what kind of note? Shape notes.
Yeah.
Taught.
Shape notes.
And tell them about you driving the school bus. Tell them about you driving.
Okay. And
yeah, that's a good one.
The superintendent of schools at Leslie, he taught a class, and he told me, he said, would you come down that when class is over to the office? So I went down, and he handed me the keys to his car, and he said, we have some business in Marshall, and I can't get away. I'd like you to take my car and go pick up my wife and take care of this business. So I said, okay, I did it. And a few times in there, I drove Bill Pace's car and Cheryl Halbrook's car. They were both coaches. And then, 2 months before school was out, Cheryl told me, the Redwine told me, the superintendent, he said, we had a driver to quit, and I want you to drive a school bus on a route for 2 months. So I drove a school bus when I was 16 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And no,
That's
you know,
crazy. That's really funny. And that they let you drive their cars around. It's kind of like, whoa, especially that young.
I never had
he
any
was
problems.
spoiled, too.
Yeah, yeah, you're obviously good at it.
Yeah.
And then, what about your mom? Anything that stands out with your mom?
Mom was a fine Christian lady, and she was a good housekeeper and a good cook. And
Now wait,
huh?
good cook.
Yeah.
Grandmama's
Yeah. But my grandma Kate's Cora made the best big biscuits that you've ever eaten.
Oh, really?
Oh,
That would have been nice to try those
Yeah,
biscuits
my
and
mother
gravy, you
cooked.
know?
His mother, she was a good cook, but Delbert was spoiled in the fact that when they'd sit down for dinner and he didn't like what she had fixed, of course he lived in town and he could go somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
his dad would say, "Here, son, some money, go downtown, get you something to eat."
Oh, really? He could change his mind.
Yeah,
yeah,
I thought that was unheard of.
yeah, that would have been for us too, probably. Okay.